Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Getting with the Program, talking about episode 14 of season 2 of My Hero Academia. Bizarre! Gran Torino appears! I am, of course, your ever-friendly Pokeprof, joined once again by Kitty Kross.
This was not the role play I had in mind.
And Ashen Sky.
I am the takoyaki.
So, when Sky told us about Yoda, that being basically Gran Torino's way of being, he wasn't kidding. Like, at all. I'm serious. He's a short little Muppet with great power. Am I wrong? He's a Muppet. Also, I'm hearing breathing. But he's a short little Muppet who plays the fool, but is clearly smarter than the average bear.
Walks around with a cane.
Mm-hmm. And as you pointed out, I mean, with the amount of Star Wars references already in it, it's not surprising there's an actual character like that, but still. Mm-hmm. But this episode was mostly focused on Deku and learning how to properly control his power.
Although we did get a glimpse.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing. Go ahead.
So we did get a glimpse of some of the other characters with their heroes.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see Kirishima meeting up with Tetsu again. They both got put under the same guy for their internship, and it was like they were so alike. They kept responding exactly the same time every time, and I loved it.
Yeah, the guy looks like a 4-arm mafia member, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
but then we had the earphone jack girl running with her hero. I forget what his name is, but
yeah, he was one of the first heroes we got introduced to. He was the big crane guy.
Yeah, Death Arms. That's right.
There we go. We also got to see a character I'm actually familiar with, thanks to just like images of the series, but I didn't know anything about him. And this is a guy with jeans literally all the way up to his nose, and that's Bakugo's more or less like teacher intern person.
What is it?
Genist.
Best Genist, yes.
Yeah, he is the apparently number 4 hero.
Yep.
And his power looks like almost like spiderweb kind of dealio, and it looks like he's actually using the fabric of his genes to do it. So that's his power. But his focus with Bakugo isn't battle power, which, you know, I mean, it makes sense. Bakugo doesn't need that much for when it comes to battle, but instead about his morals and the way he's presenting himself, which that is an aspect of superheroing you don't hear talked about that much.
Mm-hmm.
About the fact that, yeah, what you can do and how you work your powers is like a huge chunk of what you are to be a superhero, but how you're viewed and how your actions are matter just as much.
It's all about how you present yourself to people too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one reason why there's a lot of people out there, myself included, don't consider Punisher to be a hero, considering how he presents himself. You know, that's not very much of a heroic character, and because as such, I don't view him as a heroic character.
We also got to see Uraraka with her hero Gunhead.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically giving her the whole spiel about how things work and whatever in the industry, and she's like, I didn't think he was going to be so nice.
Mm-hmm. I also love the fact that Mr. Grape Juice got stuck basically being a maid for Mount Girl.
Karma's a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's why I said, because at the beginning, that was the line he said while he's doing the cleaning and stuff for her around her apartment. He's like, this is not the role play I had in mind.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if he wanted that kind of role play, I think he would have better off trying to go with Midnight than frickin' Mountain Lady.
Oh,
and then we also
him hell in a different way.
I mean, true, but still, my point has been made.
And then we get the snake hero, what was it, Uwami or something like that
Hmm.
was her name. We have Yayorozu, Creation Girl, and Miss Big Hands, who was in the tournament as well, got an internship with this lady, and she basically chose the two of them because they were good looking.
I mean, with the boob window Creati has, I'm not surprised at all. But I will say the one thing I'm actually really happy about is the fact that we are getting to see some of Class B in this as well. It was like now that they've been introduced as characters, they're not just one and done. We're not. It's like we'll never see them again. No, they are actually here to, here to stay, and that's a really cool way of doing things. It's like by having the internship, we're able to see Tetsu again, and get to see a little Miss Big Hands, and maybe we'll see some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, poor Todoroki got stuck with
His dad.
so I doubt that's gonna end well.
I mean, the fact that he ended up there means he willingly chose it.
I don't
Yes.
think his father would have allowed it otherwise. I think
I mean, he really has no
No.
power at the school.
maybe not at the school, but I would think being the number 2 hero in the world would allow him some sway over choices.
Not necessarily. I mean,
Not
because you saw how many offers Todoroki got.
true, but I'm still pointing out the fact that people in power are able to sway things in ways that they shouldn't be able to all the time. So I wouldn't put it past Endeavor to do something like that at all. I mean, we've already seen him do some of that already with his choice of wife and kids. But getting back to actually Deku, because that was the main focus on here, the first thing we really got to point out is the fact that Deku is now able to actually use his power. I mean, even before the revelation at the end of the episode, he's actually able to use a bit of his power without immediately breaking himself.
It all depends on the percentage of the power he's calling upon.
Yeah, right now it looks like he's saying he's calling on 5% of his power. And the fact that his 5% of his power is still more than enough to make him leap up like half a story high plus is just goes to show you how much One for All is going to be doing once he's got 100% of it under his control.
Mm.
But Gran Torino is an interesting little Muppet because his power is jet and allows him to literally just like bounce around and all comes out of his feet. And we know that partly because they have a new way of introducing character quirks and powers to us.
I don't know if that's a new way or if that's simply from the Japanese at it.
It could be. Either way, it's basically we have a new eye catch. Matter of fact, we also had a new theme song and ending theme song for starting with this episode. And in the eye catch, it actually showed a particular character, in this case, Deku and Gran Torino, and it basically gave a quick little rundown of what their powers were. Which I really like that because as cool as it is to hear our little microphone guy going, hey, this is this person's power and this is how it works. It does put a pause on the actual action.
Plus, he can't really do that when he's not in the scene.
I
Yeah.
mean, he did that when he wasn't in the scene before in season 1 when we were getting introduced to all the characters, but still.
Yes, but that was still a school environment.
True, it was. But it's really cool that if that is the way they're going to be showing characters' powers, and like that's going to make me pause during that just so I could read what every single person's powers do, just because I like to learn about that kind of stuff. But I almost want to say it's not just Yoda, but it's also almost like a Mr. Miyagi style thing for how Gran Torino is teaching Deku. I'm serious, because that is how the episode goes. It's like basically he goes and tells Deku, it's like, hey, you're not using your power as your own. It's like you're thinking of it as something to call upon. And he actually does have a point. The way Deku has been treating One for All right now has been basically as it's not rightfully is. It's not his power. It's
Which
like,
I mean, it's natural when you've grown up without it
mhm.
your entire life.
Yeah, but I think the thing that really made that stuck out to me was this is the exact same thing we just went with Todoroki. It is literally someone going and sitting Deku down and saying, "This isn't All Might's power anymore. It's yours. It is up to
Mhm.
you how you use it and what you do with it."
And I love the way that Gran Torino made him realize that because up until this point, All Might was told Deku, which he's been constantly referencing, think about the egg in the microwave and trying not to let it explode.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, how to get that power to come through where you want it. Whereas Gran Torino illustrated through putting a bunch of pastries in the microwave, and they were still cold afterwards because the plate wasn't turning. That helped Deck realize you have to get the power flowing all the way through you on and do it constantly so that it is something that you will invoke on reflex.
Mm-hmm. And that's really the main thing that has shown the difference between Deku and the others is that everybody else has had their quirks, if not for their entire lives, for a vast majority of it.
Hmm.
You
And it's
know,
and they've even basically said aloud and illustrated that quirks are basically physical abilities. They are an extension of the person. Deku hadn't been thinking of that up to this point because, as we've stated, it was given to him and it was something it was used to being a part of himself. Now
mhm.
it's clicked that yes, this is a part of him now. It's an extension of him, and he needs to use it that way.
With the episode actually ending with him fully embracing 5% of One for All and having it flow throughout his entire body.
To the
Oh,
point that he's crackling electricity.
He basically extended into a Super Saiyan.
but it remains to be seen if that's actually going to work or not.
Mm-hmm.
I say we should find out.
I
Already?
I have to say, I'm really liking Gran Torino already after this first episode. I
It's
really
been a
like him.
it's been a fairly straightforward episode as far as how things are going.
Oh, true, true, true. I will say I'm not sure. I gotta ask: is this a Japanese thing, or is just something that a lot of like the manga artists who love to make like funny jokes do? Because I've noticed this with several other animes, with Ramna One Half being the one that immediately comes to mind, where we have a character who, in their prime when they were young, was all tough and buff and strong and all
And
this stuff
tall.
and tall, and then once they get to be much much older, they're midgets, they're
I mean, it's
Muppets.
scientifically proven that you lose height
Oh,
as you age due to the
oh,
degeneration of skeletal structure.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Trust me, I know.
It's merely exaggerated for comedy.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Is that, but it's something you see a lot more in anime and manga than you see in some Western stuff.
Hmm.
To where you just see these characters where it's like, just, oh, I'm old now, so I'm a Yoda now. It's like it's just something I had to mention because we see little clips of Gran Torino
Yeah.
earlier on, and he is basically not as buff as All Might, but definitely as tall as All Might.
The wizened
Also,
old man is a regular reoccurring
mhm. But
Mm-hmm.
trope.
also there was a brief part of the discussion where they were referencing um the previous holder of All for One
Seven.
uh before All Might. And or excuse me, One for All. Why do I keep saying All for One?
Mm-hmm.
The previous owner of One for All before All Might, and I get an inkling because he said something like, "Tell me about the guy," but there wasn't any response. And then you hear, Gran Torino's thoughts about, "Oh, so you haven't told him about them yet." I'm thinking, or maybe they were female.
It's possible. I mean, there's nothing that All Might or Deku have told us about One for All just yet that leads us to believe that, you know, anybody else couldn't have it. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a shonen anime, so we're just so used to the male characters being the actual heroes and the main focus. But there's nothing to say that a member of One for All, because we know there's been several owners of this particular quirk, couldn't be female. Or hell, for all we know, they could also be an animal, because considering the fact that we know for a fact that animals can get quirks. Because the freaking president of the school is
Principal.
you know what I meant.
Yeah.
To be fair, his particular quirk is heightened IQ, so that's kind of an outlier.
I mean, it is an outlier, but my point still stands: the fact that if a character like that can exist, and especially us knowing One for All could be passed around, there's nothing to say that, another person like that could exist and have had One for All. We that's just the thing. We don't know the history of One for All. All we really have exposure of it is All Might and Deku, and we know nothing else. So us hearing about it from Gran Torino in this episode is the first time we've been exposed. So for all we know, they could flip everything on top of our heads as far as what we know about this power, how it relates to the characters, hell, how it relates to the villains. Actually, that's the one thing we forgot to talk about. Was the villains. And how apparently Stain has almost as much disdain for these guys as he does for the heroes.
Well, especially when they point out one of their targets is Deku, who is a kid.
It's clear that he's the most dangerous of villains.
He's the one that cares not for sides or anybody as long as
he's
he does.
He's an idealist.
Exactly.
Yeah. The worst, the most dangerous enemy is the one who thinks they're right.
I think that's been proven time and again, both in fantasy and reality. And I'll leave it at that. Oh boy. But I'm curious on how Muppet Yoda, Mr. Miyagi here, is going to really interact. Yoda. He is a Muppet Yoda. Do not deny the Muppet Yoda.
You know what I'm curious about?
Wrong you are.
So you know what I'm curious about?
What? What's
in a Wonder Ball?
Oh, no, we're done. We are done.
Must not be.
We are done. We're going to go watch the next episode, but until then, my friends, stay frosty.
Take care, guys.
Enjoy your treats.
Oh, good lord.